Hi, I'm Buck. I'm here with my friend Amy, who's the therapist. I am someone who has recently been diagnosed bipolar, um, and I have been under psychiatric care or therapy care since I was in fourth grade, where I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. I was the kid who couldn't stop touching the wall or had to touch, turn the light switch on and off like so many times. And there was a little Catholicism guilt in that too, that had me praying for hours. Anyway, I'm here with my friend Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hey, Buck. Hey, everybody else who might be watching. Good to see you.
And you're a therapist?
I'm a therapist. Oh, you're letting me introduce myself.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm a therapist with over 35 years of experience. I'm basically retired now. I just have a few clients, and I'm not looking to build because I'm old and decrepit and all kinds of reasons for that. But anyway, but I still have therapist brain, and I've had multiple sclerosis for the last 31 years, probably longer than that, but didn't get diagnosed until after my kid was born, which was 31 years ago, which is surreal. So, anyway, but so Buck, did you have a dysfunction for this week
Oh,
that you could talk about?
okay. Um, Yeah, I saw my psychiatrist. I really like her. She's really nice.
Good,
And again,
good.
it costs nothing. Um, so
Yes,
I and it's different than the US where you basically go to a psychiatrist to get the medication. They
right.
don't really talk. She talks to me for like an
Some do,
hour
not
and
very much.
15 minutes
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes. And I make her laugh. So I went to her and I said, I have these trimmers, which I've talked about before, and now it's in my jaw and stuff like that. So she has given me medication, which I just picked up about a half hour ago. I can't remember what it's called. Palmala, I don't know. Anyway, it's supposed to stop the tremors, and it's for people who are taking medication like lithium and bipolar
Yeah,
medication,
yeah.
so that you can continue to take the medication for bipolar and anxiety. Just add this so that you stop having tremors.
Right.
So, but the pharmacist said to me, you know, it may make your blood pressure really low. And I said, yes, that's what she told me. And I said, but I already have low blood pressure. And he said, oh, he said, well, you may feel like you're going to pass out. If you do,
That's
you should stop taking it. And I was like, okay, or call your doctor. I said, I'll stop taking it. So, I've, it takes a long time to get all of the medications to work
yes,
together. You know what I mean? And you have
yes, it does.
side effects. You have to take care of that side effect. You have to,
Yep.
but, I used to feel when I started taking the lithium, I used to feel like I was going to pass out a lot. Now I don't feel like that. Now
Good. Okay. Oh, so your body's adjusted to it is
Yeah,
all.
but the trimmers, when I'm trying to do stuff, and now it's my jaw at night, it'll go, so
Ugh,
I have
so
to do
annoying.
that too. What is your dysfunction?
Oh, this is so silly. So I'm on my iPad right now as we speak, and I have this nice tripod that my husband bought me, and I was adjusting, and so I use it for yoga, and since I'm on the floor for yoga most of the time, I have to adjust it down, and I was holding on to it, and I loosened the thing that made it adjust, and it just fell right on my finger,
Oh,
and pinched my finger, and now I have blood blister on my finger, and
uh,
it hurt really bad. So, but that was just one of those. I had a client who used to, when she did something dumb, she used to say, like she locked her keys in her car and she had to pay for that. And she goes, "I call it paying a stupid tax." That was my stupid tax on my finger.
yeah. Oh, we all
So,
do stuff like that.
dumb to do. I know it was just one of those, like, why on earth? What's
Yeah.
wrong with me?
I mean,
Anyway,
I still, not very often, but I still, like the other night, I had a glass in my hand and it just fell into the sink. Fortunately, it didn't break.
oh, nice.
But it
The
was
break. Oh,
like I was like,
Good.
oh, it just,
Yeah.
my
I
hand
understand.
just let loose,
Yeah.
and
That
I didn't
happens.
have control over it. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. So,
I have neuropathy in my fingers. Not as bad in my right hand, but it's there. But neuropathy is I just can't feel them.
right.
You know, like so it feels like you know how when you're just coming out of anesthetic at the dentist and you
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm starting to feel my, but you know it's not quite back. That's how my fingers always
Yeah.
feel, is that they're just a little numb, which makes them incredibly clumsy and
Um,
hard to do.
yeah.
Like I have a really hard time putting earrings on and stuff like that. Forget it if they. I have to have those big like disc back earrings in order to put them on. You know, if I have those kind on,
Yeah.
otherwise I have to use the kind of
Yeah.
just stick in. There.
Yeah.
But
I have
no, it's
to,
just annoying.
because of the frostbite.
Yeah, yeah,
It's really now it's really only my thumbs, but they're much better.
yeah.
But
Good,
my fingers, the other fingers are okay. But
good.
when I do auditions, I have to button the shirt up, like laying on the bed, before
Yeah.
I put it on, because
Yep.
I can't do it like that. It just
I
won't.
get it.
I can't do
That
the cuff
totally is me too. Yeah,
because I
cups.
can't feel
Sure.
the. I can't really
Yeah,
feel it. So
yeah.
you
And
know,
some, you know, I would told mom this one time this kid couldn't do certain things, and I said, well, some of it is I can see it, so I can do it, but a lot of it is I can feel it, so I can do it. You
right,
know, you have to be able to feel things to do stuff like that.
right.
So if you can't feel it, then forget it. I get it. Anyway,
So today I
so
thought we'd talk about I just watched part of it. I didn't finish it on Netflix about this kid Gabriel Fernandez and in Los Angeles and how actually it was in Palmdale, but the trial, like how he was kind of passed around. He seemed pretty happy. It seemed like he was passed around from relative to relative because his mom couldn't take care of him, and then finally he goes back to his mom, and she has this big boyfriend who's really tall and heavy and like that. And it turns out that he was sleeping in a cupboard every night, and that he had marks all over him, cigarette burns, and they shot him with a BB gun, and he had ligature marks everywhere on his ankles and on his neck and on his wrists. And they had beaten him with a baseball bat. With a baseball bat, they had beaten him, so he died. And
yeah,
so now the I mean, this is an old case, but of course, the boyfriend and the mother, I don't know how they do that to their child, are on trial, and they want now the social workers are, because the sheriffs went there several times and they thought he was lying, even though he had marks all over him. They said he did it to himself, and the sheriffs just believed that. And when the
yeah.
social workers went, there were four of them, and they didn't really inspect anything. They didn't really look at
Right,
anything, you know.
right.
They just
Probably didn't
signed off
by
on
himself.
it. So now they're on
Yeah,
trial. They were
good.
on trial. So
Yeah,
and then when I was in New York, we had what was his name? Joel Steinberg. Joel Steinberg and his partner, Hedda Nussbaum, had illegally adopted this girl, Lisa, and they tortured her. This is New York City. This guy was a lawyer. He was a criminal defense attorney, and I think she was a professor or something. I don't know what
oh my
but
goodness.
they had chained this child to a radiator, and they beat her, and then she died. And
Yeah,
when you saw them in court, they were just surprised. Like,
that they got in trouble
why
for
are we,
killing their.
why are we?
Yeah,
And Hedda
that's
Nussbaum said, "Oh, he made me do it. He did the whole thing," and they didn't believe her at all. They said, "You should
no
have done something. You could have.
doesn't.
You were
Yeah,
able to leave the apartment. You should have reported him, and you should." So
right,
she went to
right.
jail, and now I read that he's actually out because this was in the 80s. So he's out, But so I thought
Yes.
you worked a lot with abused
Yeah,
children and mothers
yeah,
who are abused or are abusing their
yeah.
kids or
Right, right.
kind of
Yeah,
hanging on. Like, not being able to make a living wage and take care
Right.
of their child. So uh,
Yeah. My first job was in after I graduated from grad school. I've been in social services my entire life. I in high school I worked at the food stamps uh, office, like processing food stamps. So even then, and that's because my dad's in social services. That's really why. But the only jobs I had that weren't social service were retail. Otherwise, I've been in social services. I worked in group homes, and I worked, but in community mental health, and that was I did that, and then, but even then, you work with abused kids. But I spent let's see, a couple of years in foster care, like just as a caseworker, and then 8 years in the foster care system as specifically as a therapist. So when I was a caseworker, the caseworkers did all the therapy with the kids and handled the cases, which was difficult to say the least. Spend an awful lot of time in juvenile court and stuff, um, but it was but and then I had one interview where they said which was foster care before I got my before other stuff, but they said they don't work with the parents with the parents who have lost their kids because they just didn't have good feelings about it or something. And I was like, I think you need to work with the parents too. And when I worked with these moms, there were a few that were really needed to not have their kids.
yeah,
But the majority of these women, like something like 80% of kids are in the system because their parents are drug addicts.
right,
Um, so and that's a something that it's difficult to change, but you can change it. But I did have some kids who were abused and neglected, but most of these women were themselves abused, neglected people, or had fallen into hard times somehow and become drug addicts. And it was the interesting thing was when I had women who were addicted to like crack and cocaine, which are basically the same thing. Um, those women were it's easier to get off of crack. The ones that were addicted to heroin were the ones that relapsed more
right.
frequently and had a much harder time. So it was very interesting to watch that. But I didn't see people who wanted to hurt their kids mostly. What I saw were when there were women who were completely clueless about it. They usually had some kind of personality disorder, or they gotten hooked up with somebody. They were so abused and neglected them, or so abused themselves by their partner or whatever that they were unable to protect their kids for whatever reason. But mostly they didn't want to hurt their kids. That wasn't their thing. I had one lady, or a couple of people who had shaken baby syndrome, which is a really controversial
Yeah,
thing. But it was like you could see the one lady we knew for sure that's what happened. She said she did it. She
right.
admitted it. Not like, oh yeah, for sure I did it, but just like, oh my God. And so he was brain damaged and and difficulty. I think she was a heroin addict, and I think she was doing really well, and then she relapsed, and it was a problem. And a lot of times, by the time these ladies get their kids back, it's been 8 years, 9 years. I mean, theoretically, it's supposed to be short, like it's supposed to be like for the kids,
Yeah,
like you want to get them stable as possible, but it's really the courts are slow and they want to give these women a chance and all that kind of stuff. So I had a lady who she worked really hard. She had been sexually abused like her whole life, and she had then her kids were sexually acting out with each other, which sometimes kids do because it's a way to get affection from whatever it is. And she caught them and got really mad and digitally penetrated one of the kids, saying, "This is what it feels like. Do you want to do that to your sister? Don't do that." And they said she had been sexually abusing her kid, and I was like, "No, no, this was bad discipline, is what that was. This was a woman disciplining her kid in a way that she thought was going to impart some knowledge or something, but it was just a really stupid thing to do. But she wasn't sexually abusing her kid because in order to sexually abuse your kid, you have to be getting sexual pleasure
Right.
from abusing the kid. And she wasn't. That wasn't what was
Yeah.
going on. So she did get her kids back, but she only there by the time she got them back, one of the kids was like getting ready to age out, and the other kid was like, "I don't want to leave my grandma. She's been my mom for
Yeah.
eight, you know." So she got the little ones back. There's two little ones that she got back, but it was just like it was kind of tragic in a way
Yeah.
because here was this abused woman who really just needed some good therapy, and she had gotten diagnosed like things like schizophrenic and you know uh, just like a throwaway, like they were going to just throw her away,
Right.
like she was unfixable or whatever, and she wasn't. She was a lovely person, you know and so that was the thing, is like getting to know these women. They were very poor, like 90% African American, a few white people, but and a few Latino people. But we had Latino therapists that saw the Latino people usually. But most of them were African American because that's the way the criminal justice system is
Yeah.
in this country. You know,
Yeah.
like because a lot of these women, if they'd been white women, even though they were really poor, if they had been abused and if they'd had if you'd just taken their history and living situation, all that stuff, but made them white, they would have been managed differently.
Yeah.
When that I just that was very obvious. So
Yeah.
anyway, kind of all over the place, but
Oh,
it was it was a great. It was. What I tell people is I was one of the only white people that worked there. I mean, and it was funny because I had told my sister that, and she was in town for something, and she just went into the office with me to get something, and she went, "Everybody here is black," and I said, "Yeah, you hang out with people who know Julia Roberts," because she had been at a. I think she actually met Julia. She was at a bridal shower, and Julie Roberts was there, and I was like, "So you hang out with people who know Julie
right.
Roberts, and I hang out with people whose names are Buquisha." you know, it's just like a different world.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
and I had to prove myself. Like when I first started, we really had like me and one of the other therapists was a black therapist and a white therapist, and myself and the other white therapist kind of always had to prove that we were like okay,
Yeah.
that we were woke basically, and
Yeah.
and when after a while, like my friends that were African American that were there, like when somebody new came in that was black, and they would kind of look at me like, and I could see the other black people going, "Oh, she's cool, she's all right." No. And I was like, thanks. That was good. So, but that was one of the best experiences. Number one, because it was a good job, and I loved my coworkers, and it was difficult as hell, but I got to work downtown. I didn't like getting downtown, but I liked being downtown.
Right.
I liked all the people I worked with. But the thing about it that was the best was I got to experience what it's like to be the minority,
Yeah.
and to be around people who don't look like me
Right.
and don't talk like me necessarily, but that are people and that are lovely people and wonderful people and that cared for people, and they were great.
Right.
And I was like, not that I was, I grew up, like I've always been around people who don't look like me because when we lived in St. Louis, we lived on the campus of the children's home, and there were lots of white kids there, but there were lots of African American kids there. And I was around people who, and my school had a lot of African American kids. And I was always raised to believe that everybody was worthy and lovely, and that you weren't racist. And,
Right.
so, I mean, institutional racism is a real thing. I don't think anybody escapes it, but it certainly made me much more aware of that by working in that environment
Yeah.
for 8 years.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I missed the most when I got a job as a supervisor in a white suburb. Well, this is highly Latino too, but in Chicago, and I wasn't around the African American population anymore, and I missed that culture, and I missed the warmth, and I just missed it,
Yeah.
So that's if nothing else, if I didn't contribute anything else, I at least contributed to, I at least got to gain knowledge about myself in the world and about white privilege and how really real it is. And anybody who doesn't think that's true is delusional.
Yeah.
You know, it was so funny because the um, the main office building was in the suburbs. You know, we were downtown, like in the Loop. We weren't really in the Hood. We were in the Loop. We had offices in the Hood, but the one I was at was in the Loop. But the main administrative building was in uh, uh, oh, I'm forgetting what that is down there, but in Bensonville, and which is predominantly white. You know, and so the black people used to call it the White House.
Oh,
They didn't say it to me, but you know, somebody finally did tell me that they did. They said that, you know.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
after a while, they would like tell me those things, but at first they kind of didn't want to insult me, I guess, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny though.
Yeah.
They called it the White House
I mean,
because it was that was white
when
people
I was
were.
in high school, I think this was before my senior year, or it might have been my senior summer. I volunteered. No, it was junior because my counselor told me to do it for it because I was going to college. So whatever I had to do
Yeah.
to look good on an application, and then it turns out none of
Yep.
that stuff was
It didn't matter.
I mean, being the Rotary boy, getting the scholarship from them, being the Kiwanis, being the, all of that. So, I mean, the
Well, the school you
scholarships
went
help, but like it
about how
didn't mean
talented.
anything. So my
Yeah.
counselor said you should do some volunteer work for, there's a camp out at Binder Lake for emotionally, he said, emotionally disturbed children. So he said, "Can you do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do that." So, um, you know, they were poor. They were really poor, and you could tell by what they're wearing. And
Of course.
they, I think we gave them a T-shirt though, but like, not a lot of them. They either didn't talk or they talked a lot, you know. And there was one boy that kind of clung to me. I can't remember his name, but he was clinging to me. And he would tell me that things weren't good at home. So I didn't really know what to do with that. I told the head, counselor, I said,
Yeah.
things are bad. So I said, and I believe him. So I don't think he lied to me. And then he stopped coming.
Oh, well, probably because
So
I wonder if
we have his number. So I called and his mother answered
yeah.
and she said, he won't be coming anymore. She said, and I don't want you to bother him. So then I saw her and him at DeBrooks. So I went, hi. And she goes, get away from him. You're not to talk to him. And she grabbed him and pulled him out. And my mother said,
Poor
what
guy.
was that? And I said, I'm afraid for this boy. I mean, she goes, what are you
Yeah.
going to do? I said, I don't know what to do. I don't even know his last name. But what do you do with somebody? Obviously, he stopped coming because she found
Yeah.
out that he told me. I
Right.
guess they
Right.
gave her a call. And then
Yeah.
she said, don't bother him. Don't bother us anymore. And then when I saw them, she was terrified,
Yeah.
So I
Well,
wondered what happened.
that's well. My guess is well, if in a perfect world, the director of the camp should have called DCFS,
Yeah.
or whatever it is in Missouri. Is it I think it's DHS in Missouri. Although I don't know, but but they should have called, and if they called, they would have gone, maybe possibly investigated. I mean, the thing about it is like, it's supposed to be anonymous. They're supposed to investigate without letting them know where it came from, although most people can figure it out,
Right.
So that was the only person that he was involved with outside of the home,
Yeah.
and gets a call or whatever. But most of the time, if they don't investigate it, you wouldn't even know. I mean, like because sometimes they'll take it and investigate, and sometimes they won't. You know,
Yeah.
and then they do investigate it. It's either founded or unfounded. And if it was unfounded, then she wouldn't have had any worries about it.
Right.
But obviously, she worries.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and here's the thing is like they don't take kids out immediately. They hardly ever do. Um, so, like the case that you were talking about, I had when you first get a call, it's A sequence A. The first call is A. The second call is B. It's the alphabet. So alphabetical. So I saw kids who did not get removed until they were on like double M, which means that they had gone through the alphabet and all the way to M before they ever got removed.
yeah.
You know. And then I saw other kids who got removed like really fast, like for something that was like kind of questionable,
Right.
you know? So it really was like it was all about the worker and who investigated it and whether they decided it was worthwhile or
Yeah.
not. So, you know,
Well, and the thing,
and
because he really was my little buddy. He really followed me
yeah,
around for a few weeks,
yeah,
and he
right,
actually would like try to hold my hand and stuff. And
yeah,
I said to the head counselor, I said, "How is he emotionally disturbed?
right.
I
He's just
don't see
abused.
him as emotionally
Right,
disturbed.
right,
He doesn't act
yeah,
out, you know. He
right,
doesn't have fits. He doesn't seem to be lost, you know. He's
yeah,
very energetic. He's very so. How is he emotionally disturbed? Because all the kids here are supposed to be emotionally disturbed or have emotional
right,
problems. They wouldn't say
right,
emotionally disturbed today, but that's
yeah,
I said I don't see it. I don't see anything wrong
yeah,
with him. They go, well,
right,
it's really for poor kids, and and I said, yeah, but if there's nothing wrong with him, I'm not saying I don't want him here, but I'm saying
yeah,
I think that he's misdiagnosed or something,
right, right,
you
right.
know?
Which happens.
Yeah,
Yeah, people go through tons of different diagnoses. Yeah,
yeah. But
yeah,
I think, his family was probably investigated and they
right,
probably said he's lying, he has emotional problems, he has, you know. And
right.
back then,
Who knows?
that was the 70s. They believed the parent.
Right. Yeah, they believe the grown-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And a parent could hit a kid, nobody said anything. There was
right,
no,
right.
yeah. Now it's like, you know,
It's much different. Well, it's just more. I mean, it's really not in many ways, but it's the difference is that we now have things like mandated reporters and
yeah,
recognition. Sometimes kids will, sometimes parents will lie, and sometimes kids really do get abused.
yeah,
I mean, it used to be like if a girl was being sexually abused by her dad, people wouldn't believe that because no one would think that like dad would do something like
right.
that. But it happened all the time. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And now they believe it. Yeah.
Well, a lot more.
And
Yeah, I've had
to the point
people go,
where,
"Oh, he's not."
you know,
Yeah,
this does happen where the
occasionally.
wife is getting a divorce and says the husband
Yeah,
sexually abused
it
them,
happens.
and so the
Yeah,
husband gets investigated,
right,
and
right.
it's like,
Well,
well, and they do
yeah,
that, the
they need.
husbands do that to the
Oh,
wives, you know,
yeah,
she's been sexually
it
abusing
happens.
our son. It's like, man, that's the lowest of the low. You
Yeah,
know, if
to
it's
say,
not true, that's the lowest
yeah,
of the low. You should
right,
be ashamed of yourself that you stoop to this, you know?
right.
Just get a fucking
Well,
divorce.
do you your kids at all in a divorce? There's a book called "What About the Kids," and it's by this woman named Judith Wallerstein, who was a she also has like some scholarly things. She did a lot of research into abuse and how it is. So it's a really good book. I don't know if it's in print anymore, but if you can get a copy of it if you're divorcing, it's all about like not putting your kids in the
Right,
middle and how to keep your emotions from keeping the kids from being happy and being able to be, to love both
right,
parents because they should. And that doesn't mean you don't like keep kids safe from an abusive parent. That
right.
happens, and it's really hard to do a lot of times because the courts want to like not keep kids away from parents, even if they're being
Yeah,
abused, and it's so hard to prove.
yeah. my
but
sister
to
played
like use
the
it as a weapon is never good.
she played the kids as
Mhm.
pawns, you know. And
That's
then
never
she got my niece to stop seeing her father, and I really liked him, you know.
yeah.
And I went to school. I was in the same class as his brother. So,
Yeah.
and then uh, the son wanted to see his dad all the time, and she made
Yeah.
fun of him.
You wouldn't mind.
She denigrated him. She don't
Oh, that's
love
terrible.
me. Why would you want to see him?
Yeah, it's weaponizing
Yeah.
and
And he's like, because it's my
just
dad. I want to see my dad. So
and he's part of
she couldn't
it. Yeah.
stop him. So he would actually go and
Right.
spend the weekends with his dad sometimes, which was
Good. Good
good
for
because
him.
I liked
Yeah.
Richard. My sister was horrible to him.
Yeah.
I saw Mitch at the high school reunion at 10. I think I said this. He said, "Hey," and I said, "Hey," and I said, "I'm so sorry for my sister." He goes, he laughed. I go, I go, Richard didn't deserve that. I said, nobody
No.
deserves the wrath of my sister. She's just nuts, you know. She's just nuts.
Yeah.
So,
That's
and when he died, I wrote. I wrote a thing to Mitch to say I'm sorry. I really liked him. So,
oh, that's too bad.
yeah, you know. All right, I think we're done.
Well,
Uh,
finish.
that
Yeah.
was a really good topic. We'll
Yeah.
we'll see you next week. I'm
That's
Buck.
what I'm talking about. And I'm Amy, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.